Hey there, sports fans. So I'm going to talk about Game 2 of the Ashes Series 2025, baby. Now, it's at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. 51,000 tickets, I think, sold out. Well, that's the capacity. It says it's sold out. I don't know if that's a rugby league sellout or if it's just a full stadium. So, round 2. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the team selection, who I'd pick, who I wouldn't, and what I think needs to happen for England to pull this mother off, okay? So, let's look at Australia first off, because their team is actually out. I hate how they do this, by the way, because Australia released they've released a 17-man, but not an 18th man. They've got like three people that can be the 18th man. I don't understand why the teams do it differently, but last week Shaun Wane released a 19-man. I didn't understand that. There's only really one change here, and that's because of because Isaiah Yeo left the field within the first 20 minutes. I think the captain of the team left within the first 20 minutes. Now, I don't like Isaiah Yeo because of how he behaved when Saints beat the Penrith Panthers, but that's just a personal grudge. I'm sure as a man he's fine. So that is Lindsay Collins coming off the bench, Patrick Carrigan moving into that loose forward role, and Lindsay Smith making his way into the team. So largely this is the same squad. Now, if I were England, I'd be taking that as a compliment, because what they could have done here is just rolled a couple of people out, rotated a couple of people out, get some young fellas in, see if we can, give them some caps or whatever, see if we can try something new. But either they didn't feel like they accomplished what they needed to last week, it's a possibility, or they're a little bit like, no, you know what, we're gonna stick with our strong squad there to make sure that we do the damn thing. But either way, it's a great squad. Again, I don't think they'll miss Isaiah Yeo. There was really who was it that I can't remember who it was that deputised for him last week, but they did pretty well without him last week. Either way, they're going for a big pack. I guess they think that England will be doing the same, and I would implore England to do so. So this is who I would pick for Game 2. So I'll talk through my decisions here. So first off, the elephant in the room for England right now is AJ Brimson, and I've got him at 18th man. I think he is going to be a perpetual 18th man. I think he's a great 18th man because if anyone gets injured and ruled out of the game, he can slot in. Okay, yeah, you could do that from the bench too, but then you lose in that sort of forward slot if he's on the bench. So I've got him at 18th man. Nothing against him. Great player. I've seen his work in the NRL. Fantastic. Got Player of the Year at the Titans this year. The reason he's 18th man and not fullback is because I have to check myself here. Jack Welsby had the worst game of his season for sure last week. So it's going to get better. It has to get better for Welsby. Now, last week they targeted him a lot, and you could see that he was just knackered after about 20 minutes. So what Welsby needs to make sure he does is not be Superman on his own try line, but instead pass the ball out to the likes of Young and Johnston to get him some space, and then he can do what he does best, midfield, and get the ball to pass it around the field basically. My wingers, Dom Young and Tom Johnston, I debated here. Do we need Burgess? Do we need Joe Burgess? The reason being, Joe Burgess is a bit cheeky. He's a bit physical. He's a big lad, big fella. Maybe we needed him, very fast. But after that performance last week, you just can't take anything off him. I mean, like, they were they were probably the best two players on the field for us last week, maybe, except, of course, Farnworth. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with Johnston this week, to be honest, because I think he took Australia by surprise last week. I already mentioned in the previously that they stopped kicking to him. It was their plan initially was, we'll kick to this English fellow, kick to this Yorkshire lad. He won't be able to handle it. But he actually stood up to every single challenge and did so very well. So it'll be interesting to see what their tactic is there if Johnston makes the field. Farnworth and Wardle. Farnworth's fantastic. You can't not have him. Wardle, again, I think Wardle had his worst game in 5 years last week. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, knowing what he can do, knowing what he did against Penrith, or didn't do against Penrith, depending on if you're Australian or not. I'm going to give those two a go in. My halves. I don't think this is how the halves will go, but this is how I would do it. Harry Smith. I hate to say it. Not my favourite player in the world. We need him. We need Harry Smith in that squad. Because he offers an option. Last week, Mikey Lewis had all the kicking duties, and I said in my sort of halftime shorts that he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look comfortable there. He was sort of looking for his role in the game. He needed to come into it. He needed to decide what he was going to do in that game. And a couple of points he decided what he was going to do right now, but he never cemented his role in that game. And I think that if you move Mikey Lewis back to 6, you've again got one of the better players of the season. Yes, you're kicking your captain out. I think your captain's probably if let's be honest, if Williams goes, he'll probably give it to Smith, won't he? Because he would do that. Or Wellesby, but yeah, an off game. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think Lewis at 6, Smith at scrum half. With all due respect to Lewis, it takes a bit of responsibility off him, opens up his mind a little bit, takes the pressure off. You can do what you want to do and actually free play this game. A bit of heads up, bit of strategy, whatever. Because Lewis, his kicking game is underappreciated, and he had a couple of great kicks this week. But he's not Harry Smith. We need Harry Smith there to potentially just slow the game down, marshal it around if needs be. If we're getting trounced, we need someone who can find touch every single time and slow them down, take the wind out of the sails, depressurize that balloon. The pack. I've taken Williams out. I've also taken Darryl Clark out, and that is with a heavy heart that I take Darryl Clark out. But I think that Jez Litton's got it. He was Jez Litton was probably the best player on the field for us last week. How many best players is that now? 5 I've got. The pack here is a big pack. Now, last week at about 45 minutes, everyone was blowing. Walmsley was blowing. He'd only just come back on the pitch. So I think they got took by surprise a little bit. Maybe used a bit too much of their energy in that wrestle, and that's why Australia were kind of a bit passive. Just get back up and run it out. A couple of changes here. It's a big pack, and yes, I have Owen Trout in the second rows. I think he is a second row. I think Owen Trout is a great second row. I mean, just what he did in that game against Wigan in the semi-finals. It was a really good showing from him, and I think even if he's there as an acting second row and he's really a prop, he's kind of a ball playing prop, and I think we need to use Owen Trout a little bit more there than we perhaps have been. Bit of a quiet one last week, but he came on when we were 14-0 down, so you can't really blame him for not hammering into the game and putting his mark on it, I don't think. Morgan Knowles easily in there, and John Bateman. I'm not taking back what I said about John Bateman, but we needed him last week. We'll need him this week. I think without John Bateman, we're just a load of wet flannels, aren't we? John Bateman needs to get us by the ball so that we can get them by the scruff of the neck. But then his hands will be full of balls and can't scruff necks. All right, I'll think about that one. My bench, again, a bloody big bench here. Smithies, Aledzki, McMeekin. Just keep the big fellas coming. Keep the big fellas coming, because last week what we were missing was a big platform laid by these big fellas to let the halves do their work. So, I mean, and Callum Watkins is just fucking Callum Watkins, and he's played a blinder all year. He's got experience. He almost won us the World Cup a couple of years ago. Come on, you got to bring Callum Watkins back in, and so he can do his thing. This squad lends itself well, if they can handle it, to, I think, winning by 2 points at the Hill Dickinson Stadium on Saturday. They need to smash. Don't let them get the front foot. Now, the play the ball, for whatever reason, seems to be a big bone of contention. Apparently, the Australian refs aren't going to let England get away with it. Get away with what? If they're not breaking rules, I don't understand what they're getting away with. But they won't be able to play that game where they slow the ruck down. So we need interchange. And with people like McMeekin, Oledsky, having Trout in there as a second row, not a prop. Bateman do whatever, but Morgan Smithies, who's a natural loose forward, but also does a stint in the middle. I think we've got quite a good talent pool there to strategically bring on and off when needed, and then around that we free up those smaller guys, those more agile ball players to do a job. Now, I think, and I hate to say this, England need to meet Australia where they are, and I don't mean they need to raise their game. They need to play to the rules. Like, they need to do what Australia did and get a bit grubby. Because if we're honest, it was a bit of a grubby performance from Australia. A couple of just tackles off the ball, a couple of escorts, tackled in the air at one point, I think Johnston was. So we've got an Australian ref now who's going to be biased towards Australia, but there's no way he can be as biased towards Australia as Liam Moore was last week. So that's my predictions, suggestions for Mr. Wane, for his squad and his team and his strategy. Look, all we can hope for is a bloody good game and a close game. Please make it a close game. But I think I'm going to put my flag on the ground and say England by 2. What say you? Right. Go out there, enjoy the game. Let me know what you think. Come on, England.